Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you, and welcome everybody. My name is Muna Khalif, and I am the co-founder of Lighting the Way, and it is my great honor to welcome you to the first annual benefit dinner of Lighting the Way campaign. First and foremost, I would like to thank all our sponsors who made this night possible, as well as those who took the time from their busy schedules to spend the evening with us. And a special thanks to Midwest Home Healthcare for generously offering to double the money we hope to raise tonight. I would like to start this evening by welcoming to the stage Munir Khalif, another co-founder of Lighting the Way, who will give us a brief introduction about the campaign. Munir is a rising junior at Mounts Park Academy who serves as a teen advisor for the United Nations Foundation campaign, Girl Up, which mobilizes American girls to empower and support the world's hardest to reach adolescent girls in developing countries to become safe, healthy, educated, counted, and positioned to be the next generation of leaders. Over the past couple years, she has been asked to speak at numerous events to inspire her generation to get involved in making a difference and to promote education worldwide. She was honored by Chairman of First Step Initiative, Cherna Noba, as a nominated speaker on Malala Day. Munir was chosen to perform a spoken word piece at the United Nations General Assembly in the presence of UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, the incredible and heroic Malala Yousaf, more than 500 youth from 85 different countries, and other global degenerates. She has been featured on Voices of America, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation website, and will feature on ABC World News on International Day of Girls. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Munir Khalif.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to everyone. I would like to first start by thanking everyone whose hard work and dedication to the cause made this night possible, and to each individual who's taken time out of their busy schedules to be here with us tonight. 2 years ago, my sister and I experienced a revelation that would not only change the way we perceive the world, but also the vital role that we played in it. This change was first sparked after hearing my mother's own story back home in Somalia, where she was given the luxury to not only attend school, but to complete it. This is because Zainab's father, Shamarki, was a brilliant man enlightened before his time. He comprehended the enormity of not only educating his sons, but his daughters as well. We must note that for a man of his time, such ideas were not only revolutionary, but simply not heard of. After the Civil War broke out, Zainab settled in America with the desire to grant her daughters this gift of education. I stand here today as a legacy of my grandfather Shamarki's ingenuity and vision. However, we were soon presented with the grim reality that unlike my mother, 57 million children around the world are denied the fundamental human right of education, the majority being girls. It was within that moment that we realized that it was not only our call to action, but our responsibility to reach our hands out and grant this gift of education. My sister Muna Khalif and I collaborated to launch a campaign to not only ensure education to millions of girls in the Horn of Africa, but also to create a global youth movement, to unite like-minded young people around the world, and from there, Lighting the Way was born. Lighting the Way's mission is to mobilize East African diaspora youth, both domestically and internationally, to empower East African girls through education. We envision a world where East African youth from the diaspora can unite in solving problems of civil strife and famine in their native countries while advocating for universal education. We strongly believe that the youth of today are not only the leaders of tomorrow. No, the youth of today are acting now to ensure the goodwill of tomorrow. Lighting the Way encapsulates the power of young girls and the largest generation of youth to ever encompass the earth. Our concentration on the education of young girls was not only inspired by my mother's story, but what educating a girl means for a developing nation. Investing in the education of girls is not only the right and noble thing to do, but also the smart thing to do. This is because millions of girls lack the resources and the opportunities to educate themselves, leading to early marriage and a life of arduous poverty. However, by educating just one girl, we have the capability to break this cycle of poverty. Because when girls are educated, we see societies prosper and economies grow. For it is today's girls who will nurture tomorrow's generation and lay the blueprint for the future. In other words, today's girls are at the core of our communities and will be influencing the lives of their children and soon our world. As stated in an African proverb, if you educate a boy, you educate an individual. But if you educate a girl, you educate a nation. This quote exemplifies the importance of unlocking the potential of girls in developing countries and the leading role education plays in transcending a life of poverty. Around the globe, girls face indescribable injustices simply because they are a girl. However, the reality is no country can move forward with half of its people behind. All of the funds raised this evening will go to implementing education programs for girls in Kenya, Eritrea, Djibouti, Somalia, and Ethiopia. We plan to provide both resources and opportunities to ensure every girl is educated, including building libraries, providing scholarships, equipping schools with the necessary utensils, and providing mentorship opportunities. We believe that if you provide the necessary resources for these girls, they themselves will bring forth the willpower to change their own path. With that, we hope not only to change people, but minds that will comprehend the importance of educating girls and fostering people with homelands that were ravished by hunger and civil war. After attending Malala Day at the United Nations headquarters as a nominated speaker and representative of Girl Up, Malala proved to me that one girl with courage is a revolution. And in the words of Her Majesty, Queen Rania of Jordan, if one girl with courage is a revolution, imagine what feats we can achieve together. So I ask you to see beyond yourselves and your world, and to join us in equipping the youth of East Africa with the most important means for change, and education. Thank you.
Thank you, Munir, for sharing your message with us. Next up, our first speaker, Shukri Abdinur. Shukri Abdinur serves as IMA Star Program Assistant at the American Refugee Committee, an international humanitarian aid agency that works with refugees around the world to help them take back control of their lives. Shukri spearheaded ARC's IMA Star campaign in the midst of the famine in Somalia. IMA Star is an innovative, grassroots, do-it-yourself platform which brings together members of the Somali youth community worldwide and others to take action for Somalia. Shukri graduated from the University of Minnesota with a Bachelor of Arts in Global Studies and a minor in African Studies. As a student, she co-founded Students Against Violence to find constructive solution within the Somali youth to end violence in her community. Shukri has also volunteered in numerous community organizations and initiatives. She was born in Somalia and came to the U.S. at the age of 6. And she has made her life mission to dedicate her career to humanitarian work. Now please join me in welcoming Shukri Abdinur.
Assalamu alaikum and Ramadan Kareem, everyone. My name is Shukri Abdinur, and my life, alhamdulillah, has been blessed. I've had the chance to leave a war-torn country right on time, come to America with my whole family, and attended years of primary school as well as high school, and I later obtained a bachelor's degree at the University of Minnesota. Having the luxury to have all these opportunities, I'm extremely grateful for them. However, I know if I lived in Somalia, I probably never had these have these opportunities as a woman. Aqoon la'aan wa iftiin la'aan, which translates to, where there is no knowledge, there is no light. Many Somali young people, young and old, have heard this at least once in their lives. As much as we as a people value the meaning behind this saying, it is not reflective of our country as a whole, and it is not reflective in the extreme illiteracy rates, and it's definitely not reflective in the way we value education for our young women in Somalia. Could it be that we just don't have the means to educate our youth? Or should we blame it on the conflict that's been going on for the last 20 years? I can't really answer that, but I can tell you my experience and my thoughts on the situation. I had the opportunity to go to Somalia recently, and it was definitely one of the most life-changing experiences of my life. Through first-hand experience in visiting rural and urban areas of Somalia, I had the opportunity to witness numerous issues. However, what stuck out the most to me was the educational disparity everywhere that I had went. I came to the conclusion that education in Somalia is a privilege and not a right. I found this to be completely wrong. Education should be an absolute right, and all youth should have access to basic education. As much as this is an issue for both girls and boys, I believe that young girls and women have a different type of disparity. Much has to do with the ways of our culture. Back home, girls are brought up to take care of home, to take care of their siblings, and to even marry young. They are rarely pushed to seek education. It is not only about basic education, but basic health education for young women is also lacking. When visiting a rural village by the name of Shahda, I had a relative of mine who was a medical doctor. Her name was Dr. Shukri Abdinur. We interviewed and had a discussion with a group of women, and one of them was a traditional midwife. Unlike your typical midwife here in the United States, a traditional midwife has not had the proper medical training or education, but delivers babies solely on just years of experience. When asked the procedure on how she delivers babies, she replied, "I would take the pregnant women to a faraway area from the village, and there I would use a towel and a water retrieved from the stream, and if she happens to overbleed, I would take a root from a tree, and she would bite into it to restrain the pain and possibly stop the overbleeding." Dr. Shukri Abdinur then proceeded to ask, "Do you use a glove? Do you use any gloves?" And she replied, "What is a glove?" I know the story is disheartening, but it is our reality. Imagine if we had the opportunity to give this midwife proper basic medical training. What a difference that would make in the lives of the health of the women in the village, as well as the future generation. I also witnessed what the positive effects of those receiving education, although a very small percentage. I once visited the University of Portland and spent a day with a few of the girls that were attending this school. The pride that they had in obtaining their higher education was visible to me. When I asked how they prepare for exams, they said, "We would spend a whole day if we had the chance to stay at the library and write word by word from the books needed for their exams until the library closes." I know not many of you think about how fortunate you are to check out books at your local or school library. But could you imagine having to write down word by word, verbatim, from a book because you are unable to take that book home and you have no access to modern technology? Well, we have that privilege and they don't. We have a responsibility here as privileged Americans to partake in the empowerment of young girls and women. And I actually heard this quote earlier today from Manira. I didn't know we were going to have the same quote, but I once heard this beautiful quote: "Fail to educate a woman and you fail to educate an entire nation, and that nation suffers."
Thank you, Shukri, for the inspiring and touching speech. And now our keynote speaker, Rob Grunwald. Rob Grunwald conducts regional economic research and co-authors the Minneapolis Federal Peach Book Report on current economic conditions. He also writes articles on regional economy and other economic and banking issues from the Valley Gazette and the region to articles published by the Minneapolis Federal. Grunwald regularly speaks to business, community, and school groups about the Federal Reserve and regional economy. He co-authored Early Childhood Development, Economic Development with a High Public Return, an economic policy paper which has been featured in the media, legislative hearings, and seminars throughout the United States. Grunwald serves on the board of directors for the Minnesota Visiting Nurse Agency, Think Small Leaders in Early Learning, the advisory board for First Children's Finance Growth Fund, and as president for the Minnesota Economic Association. Grunwald holds a bachelor's degree in economic and religion from St. Olaf College and a master's degree in applied economics from the University of Minnesota. Now please give a warm welcome to Rob Grunwald.
It's wonderful to be here with you all, and I'm going to talk a bit today about some economics. You've invited economists here to talk about investing in girls overseas, and I want to lay some groundwork from an economic view of why this is such an important investment. Now, at the Minneapolis Fed, I'll start by saying we are the central bank for the United States. We put money into circulation. We make money the old-fashioned way. We print it. We put it into circulation. Economists at the Federal Reserve watch over our economy to understand how much money we are to put into circulation so we keep prices stable over time. So that's what the Federal Reserve is primarily responsible for. We have a team of economists here at the Federal Reserve Bank in Minneapolis and also in 11 other cities that have Federal Reserve banks. We also have the Board of Governors in Washington, D.C. And economists study a wide range of issues. A lot of those issues are looking at issues around money and credit and banking. But we're interested in how economies grow. And what economists have come to learn, and all of you understand this too, is that economies work well when you have well-educated people in that society. In the United States, we have a highly educated workforce, and this is an economy that produces a lot per person, and it's an economy that has high per capita income. Minnesota is a state within the United States that has exceptionally high per capita income levels. We get up close to that top 10 among states in terms of having high amount of income per family. And this is a state that has a high percentage of population with a high school degree and a college degree. So as economists look at examples of economies that work well, we don't have to look far. We can look here in Minnesota. So while economists are interested in how economies work, we are also very concerned about the impact on families. So you can have economies that are working well, but we can look backwards and look at, well, we understand that if families have resources and they have education, they're going to be able to find jobs, they're going to earn money for their families, they're going to be able to send their kids on for more education. And what we notice in the United States and around the world, when we think about income inequality and wealth inequality, it is a question of education. There are growing demand for workers in this world economy with higher skills. If you are an individual in this world that can graduate from high school, go on and get some education beyond high school, get a 4-year college degree, there's going to be a job waiting for you. In the long run, as we look into the future, this world economy will be looking for workers to fill important jobs. Now, to look specifically among young girls in the Horn of Africa, that there's growing concern and interest about this particular group of adolescent age girls from an economic perspective. Because we understand that if we can invest in young girls in this area, that we're going to get a high return, not only for that girl, but for all of society. Because when you educate an individual, certainly there's lots of benefits for that individual. They're going to be able to go on and get a job, earn more income. But you also have an individual who is going to be giving more to the community and is going to be able to pass that education on to children. So just a few facts that are recognized by the World Bank, looking globally, that if we are able to close the gap between education and job prospects for males and females in the developing world, that we'll have a very stronger global economy. Closing the gender gap in access to agricultural inputs and the ability to have own businesses in agriculture could reduce the number of people who are hungry by 100 to 150 million. What economists recognize is that mothers, if they are able to have some income coming in, especially in a developing country, like in the Horn of Africa, they're more likely to invest almost all of those resources back into the family. 90% of income coming into a family that has been able to generate by an educated woman, that mother is able to invest those resources back into the family. What we also recognize is that early pregnancy is very expensive, not only to that very young female, but to the child, that it's more healthy for that family for the first pregnancy to be delayed until that woman is ready to start a family. And when girls are educated, they take more control over those decisions in terms of having that first birth. In fact, what research shows is that in a girl in a developing country receiving more than 7 years of education, that she's more likely to marry 4 years later and have 2 fewer children in that family. And what that recognizes is that this is a woman who has more control over those decisions and also are able to invest resources back into the family. And then finally, going back to just the impact on that woman, is that statistics show that for each additional year of primary school, earning for that woman will go up 10 to 25%. And if that girl can stay through secondary school and get a high school degree, the earnings are even higher. For each extra year that a girl can stay in secondary school, earnings go up 15 to 25% annually. So it's a staggering amount, a very high return on investment. The next thing I want to talk about, and I've done more research in this area, is the intergenerational impact.
Again, I would like to thank all of you for coming. Today is really, for me personally, working with Araha, it's a special day. And it's a special day because I could not imagine this event even just a year ago. But I know that Munira and Muna, their hard work led up to this event. So before I start, I would like to personally thank them too, their parents and those who helped them to make this event successful. This month that we are fasting in Ramadan is a very special month for all of us. And one of the greatest things about this month, and I still remember when I was really young, is that it's the month that brings people together. And you won't really realize this until the end of Ramadan, after Eid, weekends after that, when the table is not as filled anymore. And not everyone is gathering to have iftar together. So I would like a special request from all of you to take an extra special attention to that, because we are almost halfway toward Ramadan. I don't think I have to say much today because fundraising for me today is probably very easy. The case has been set to you, and that video, which I saw clips of it, but I was really moved with that. And on top of that, I know all of you here today, you're special. Special in the sense that you understood this mission, you listened to Muna and Munira, and you listened to others, and you took your time to be here today. So the fundraising for me is very easy. But before I start, I wanted to remind you one thing. Araha, we've been existing since 2000. And for the last 13 years, we've been focused in working in this region. And we've been chasing famine and drought and wars for these 13 years. Feeding people has been one of the biggest demands. But after a while, we start realizing that this problem just does not end. Droughts have been coming back. And unfortunately, lastly, we had the famine in Somalia. So the last 4 years, we tried to focus on education. And in 2009, we built, very fortunate, alhamdulillah, we built a school in Sudan. And the school that we built in Sudan is in a refugee camp that has over about 60,000 people. And this camp was established in the early 80s. Until 2009, they did not have a single high school. So for over 30 years, no high school, technically. And when we built this high school, the community came together and we built the first class, the first group to be for girls. Because we found out that the boys could actually leave this camp and could potentially access some of the high schools that were further away. But the girls, on the other hand, they had no alternative, no option. And I'm here today very happy to inform all of you that since we began this school in 2009, that we had our first 30 students, 30 girls graduate this year from this school. This is a tremendous feat for all of us.
This is a great event. I wasn't expecting such an event, and it's well organized, and I thank both Munira and Muna Khalif for organizing the event, and for everybody who participated and for everybody who donated. It is a wonderful event to empower and to educate our children, especially our girls. I was raised by a single mother who was the first educated person in her family. She was the youngest child in her family, and I remembered my mother today when I was sitting here. She was the first, she had the opportunity to go to school. She was one of the first midwives in Somali history. At the age of 16, she became a midwife. At the age of 16, she became the leader of her family, even though she was the youngest of all her 15, 20 siblings. And through her, we were educated. So I understand the importance of this story, this narrative, and this project that everybody's trying to do. And I support it. I will donate at the end. I'm not going to tell you how much, but I shall donate to it. And I will, like my brother Jailani said, we will talk about it, and I will go back home and I'll tell my relatives and my friends to support such an initiative. It's wonderful to educate our girls. And also, I have a daughter. The only child I have is a girl who was born in Minneapolis, and I want her to be educated and to become somebody who gives back to the community and to society as a whole.